How's it going? And welcome back to Chasing Victory with Ben Valiant and Jayson Lee. I'm Ben Valiant and that's Jayson Lee. And today we have an NFL Divisional Round recap for you. Jayson, how's it going?
It's going well, Ben. Great games. A lot of interesting things to look forward to for Championship Sunday, and it's going to be a good final stretch of the year.
Yeah, this past weekend really set us up for an awesome upcoming championship weekend, an NFC East matchup, and yet again, a storied rivalry throughout the past couple of years. The Bills and the Chiefs are taking on. But let's talk about how these teams got to where they are. First, with the Texans and the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs win it. The Chiefs, they take care of business. They do what they needed to do. They were supposed to beat the Texans. The Texans were never supposed to be in this game. They kept it to under 10 points. I'll give them credit for that. But Chiefs took care of business. They're moving on to the AFC Championship for the seventh straight year.
That's insane. Like to think that we've been sitting through 7 straight AFC Championship games of Patrick Mahomes.
Every
That
single
is
year he's been a starter.
insane, right? But like, I don't even know what to think about this Chiefs team. It's so on the fence this year. Like, there's some bright spots on this team. Guys like Xavier Worthy, guys like the defense every time steps up to the plate. Guys like Travis Kelce when it comes to playoff time. But I don't know about this Chiefs team, man. It's great, but I feel like there's always just that extra, umph that they get from a specific group of people, from a specific group of zebras and their laundry on the field, you know. But I'm sure, like, you could tell any Texans fan, you can even tell any Texans player about what they saw on Saturday. It was an interesting officiating game, but I mean, the Chiefs are moving on as they should. They were the favorite, but their biggest focus is beating the Bills for a fourth straight year in the playoffs and going to their third straight Super Bowl. So, as for the Texans, it was they weren't supposed to be there, but they did put up a fight, 14 points against they only lost by 9. It's not like they got destroyed. But, the Texans, you live in your own, Chiefs are moving on, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, nothing you can do about it is exactly right. And the thing that made the refs hits so extravagant, so nauseating to watch, the roughing the passer call on Patrick Mahomes, is that there were similar hits throughout the rest of the weekend that were not called. There was that one hit in the Commanders game where Jared Goff got blown up. Now, I don't think that's a roughing the passer. I know by rule it is. It shouldn't be because he's not a quarterback at that point. But Jalen Hurts got blown up at least one time. There were hits that were similar to the level of contact that the Patrick Mahomes hit was at, and they weren't called. So there's got to be something said for the refs. But the other thing you talked about it is the Texans scoring 14 points. And I want to talk about the flip side of that. What the Chiefs defense was able to do. This is a Texans offense that was putting up 30 points a game throughout the regular season. This is a Texans offense that was electric throughout the season. I just need to give credit where credit is due to what Steve Spagnuolo has done with this Chiefs defense. This is the best defense they have had in this championship window, in this dynasty, you could call it, where they've won 3 out of the last 5 Super Bowls. They're on the precipice of another one with the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead this weekend. And Steve Spagnuolo has put together the best defense we've seen out of the Chiefs. He's really gotten to use his creativity and really design plays that you don't normally see. And it's been a sight to see for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's really picked up the slack where the offense hasn't been as good this year. I'm saying that as they're still scoring 25, 30 points a game.
Yeah, absolutely. This defense is sick. They sacked CJ Stroud 8 times. Everyone came to play. Even guys like George Karlaftis, he had 3 sacks, 4 tackles. It was a great showing on the defensive side of the ball, which honestly, if you look at things, if the Chiefs in fact make the Super Bowl, those times they've made the Super Bowl, they have never held a lead in the fourth quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, they have always played down. So the defense is usually on the weaker side in the Super Bowl when it really matters most. But now, if this is the defense that's walking into New Orleans in a few weeks, if they get past the Buffalo Bills, I think this defense is a legit defense in the NFL, and this team can really make some noise, especially in the Super Bowl. And they're gonna kick you when you're down, and you do not want, especially Super Bowl Patrick Mahomes, to show up, because Super Bowl Patrick Mahomes knows how to win.
Super Bowl Patrick Mahomes rarely ever loses. And I mean, you talk about the 8 sacks for the Chiefs defense. They have the 8 sacks. They get a fumble recovery. It's well, they forced a fumble. The Texans recovered it, but they were all over the Texans. It felt like every time I looked up at the TV, there were Chief players in the backfield. They were just on CJ Stroud all night long. And that's what led them to a shutout third quarter. Or not a 6 point first half, a 2 point fourth quarter. That is what the Chiefs need to do. That is what they need to do again against the Bills. That's how they're going to win this football game. Their offense might not be better than the Chiefs, I'll say it. Travis Kelce isn't having his best season. He's still having a good season, but it's just not his best season. Josh Allen is playing on another level right now, and we'll have a prediction episode coming out Saturday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But the Chiefs defense has to step up on Sunday night if they want to take down the Buffalo Bills again. We're transitioning to a little bit about the Texans. Their kicker was brutal. I mean, you look at the kicking for the Texans. You look at what Kaimi Fairbairn was able to do. 2 for 4 on field goals. 0 for 1 on extra points. That's not going to win you playoff games. If you're leaving 7 points on the board, I mean, 7 points would have made this a 2-point game. They wouldn't have had the safety. The Chiefs wouldn't have taken the safety if it was a close game. And that's a tie ball game right now. So their kicker lost them the game. This game's blame does not go on CJ Stroud. It does not go on Joe Mixon. It does not go on Nico Collins. It doesn't go on Stephon Diggs, who are tanked out. This game is on the leg of Kaimi Fairbairn. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, you can't, it's not like you can blame the weather in this one. Like, I get it's cold, I get there's wind, but
And football
7
weather.
points are on the board here. 7 points, regardless of this, you can factor in the safety or not. It's 21-23 at that point. That Chiefs drive, that Chiefs offensive drive is going to be filled with the Texans defense. All out blitzes. They're trying to get that ball back. And if they're down 2, they could try to kick a field goal and win it. But Kaimi Fairbairn didn't show up to work. He only showed up to work 50%. 2 for 4 in the playoffs is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
There is no excuse for going 2 for 4 in the playoffs. Like, if this was indoors, if this was let's say they were playing the Raiders in Vegas, if this was indoors, you go 2 for 4, you're out of a job.
Yeah.
You're out of a job if you go 2 for 4.
You have to be ready to kick in the elements. I mean, that's part of the sport. That's what you get paid millions of dollars to do. Kick. It doesn't matter if you're indoors in a temperature controlled environment or you're outside playing in the elements at Arrowhead with 73,000 fans screaming on at you. You have to be able to make kicks. And I get one of the kicks was a 55-yarder. So that's okay if you miss it. It's plausible that he can miss. It's not okay, but I'm not going to get too upset over that one. But the other two, you got to make those kicks. That's the bottom line.
You do. Your kicker is as equally a part of your team as everybody else. Everybody has to come together to win a football game, and that includes your special teams. Your special teams can win you the game and lose you the football game. And, I mean, there's a lot of other things, obviously, that went into the Chiefs, obviously, leading to 23 points. Chiefs winning this game. There was a lot of, the big thing also was the Texans' offensive line. You allowed 8 sacks. 8 sacks is a pretty big number for a defense to have on you if you want to compete at the level that they're trying to compete at. But, I just think the Texans are, this was the Texans team we were expected to see in the divisional round. Like, whatever team that showed up to play the Chargers, I don't know where they were at, because this game would have been a lot closer, regardless of Kaimi Fairbairn. This game would have been a lot closer. I don't know what the team that put up 33 points in the wild card game against LA, I don't know where that team was. Because if we were talking about that team, this game would be a completely different story. this game would be a lot more competitive. But, we get Patrick Mahomes getting shoved out of bounds and getting a 15-yard penalty. That's the game we get.
Basically, I mean, it's the Chiefs. They've been doing it all year. Now they've got Caitlin Clark on their side. They've got the Rizzler on their side. It's a zoo out in KC, and the zebras are a big part of it. And that's the bottom line for the Chiefs. They're gonna get these calls, and that's that. But at the end of the day, I mean, what is the Texans' ceiling right now? Because right now it's not Super Bowl contender with the Chiefs in their conference, with the Bills in their conference, with the Ravens in their conference, with what we think the Broncos and Chargers are gonna do next season. What's their ceiling right now? And because they need to make another big splash in free agency this year. Stephon Diggs is going to be a free agent. You still have Tank Dell, but Tank Dell has had two season-ending injuries in both his seasons in the league. So there seems like there's a problem there to me. They need to do something. I mean, they have Danielle Hunter. CJ Stroud still might be the guy. I'm a little bit skeptical after his sophomore slump now. But there's something to say there that the Texans need another big time player.
They do. I feel like that's what the case was, especially when CJ Stroud came on board. When they did the back-to-back a few years ago they traded back up. They got Will Anderson too. They built the pieces. They got D'Amico Ryans as your coach instead of, Bill O'Brien, how he wasted an organization. He almost buried that organization. And D'Amico Ryans and other coaches lifted it back up. But there's got to be a lot more that goes into this team. A lot of young guys are on this offense. Like Dalton Schultz is still pretty young. Nico Collins is fairly young. Tank Dell, I don't know if he's going to have a fully healthy year next year. I would say where you're picking in the draft, you're probably picking in the 20s. If I had to guess, I would say go a little more on the offense. I think your defense is fine.
Yeah,
I think,
I agree.
The secondary is fine. The linebacker core is fine. Maybe take an O lineman. I don't know what O lineman's going to be there, but O lineman might even be a reach for you, depending on who it is. Receivers, if Luther Burden is there out of Missouri, then gladly take him. If a guy like, who knows, if a guy like, I don't know, Will Johnson falls, if nobody wants a corner, I would add him to the secondary. But the Texans definitely know how to draft, clearly. But it's just a matter of getting a lot of pieces. No one really has that big of a contract in Houston other than guys like Danielle Hunter or Stephon Diggs for that matter. But no one really has that big of a contract compared to a team like Cincinnati or Dallas or the Packers with Jordan Love. No one really has that big of a baggage to worry about when it comes to cap space. But having said that, you could make a move yourself. What's to say that you can't get a guy like T. Higgins in free agency?
Well, I mean, you can go out and get a T. Higgins in free agency, but we saw what happened when you just traded for a big receiver this past season. It didn't do much for their team. Maybe T. Higgins will be a different story. But maybe the problem isn't receiver. I mean, you do have Nico Collins and Tank Dell over there. I don't know if you need to splurge on a guy like T. Higgins. And I want to get back to what you were saying, but I just came across this quote from Patrick Mahomes that I feel the need to share. This is on him and the officiating. At the end of the day, the referees are doing their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they possibly can. And all you can do is go out there and play the game that you love as hard as you can and live with the results. I think that's what we preach here in Kansas City. And then before that, he said, when he was asked about if the Chiefs get favorable calls, I don't feel that way.
Yeah. Wait, what's the main part of that? What was the main part that Patrick Mahomes said? That they do what? They do a fair job?
At the end of the day, the referees are doing their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they possibly can.
Okay. So Thursday Night Football, Vikings Rams, when Sam Darnold had his face like that. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. When Josh Allen got his jersey tugged last year, that's fair. Those are fair calls. But when someone lays a finger on Patrick Mahomes and he falls like that out of bounds, Violation. Violation. 15-yard penalty, automatic field goal, Chiefs win. It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. How is this not investigated?
This is
Clay Martin.
ridiculous, man.
Clay Martin and his officiating crew was 6-0. 6-0 with Patrick Mahomes. Not with Alex Smith, not with Carson Wentz, not with anybody. Patrick Mahomes, he is 6-0 with that guy. You're telling me that doesn't raise an eyebrow? Really? I don't know.
I mean, at this point, all we can do is laugh about it. I mean, they're not going to change their ways. Mahomes is just adding to their flame. He's probably. I feel like there's got to be a little bit of trolling involved with this. This can't be 100% real. I mean, he has to watch these games back and watch the other games and realize that his team definitely is getting a lot more favorable calls, especially after if he was watching that Sunday night game between the Commanders and the Lions, and we could transition to that right now. The Frankie Louvu hit on Jared Goff. I mean, NFL officiators and what do they call it when the guy comes on TV?
The rule
Yeah,
analysts,
the
those
rules
guys.
analysts. NFL rules analysts are coming on TV and talking about that being an unnecessary roughness. Yet, those guys wearing the black and white striped shirts decide to cover their eyes and decide to turn their heads and decide to not look at it unless it's number 15 in red. There's got to be a problem. And I don't.
Is.
There is, right?
There's got to be a problem with that. And as for that hit, I mean, it would have been a 15-yard. Still would have been Commander's ball technically off the pick, but it would have been a 15-yard penalty. Who knows if the Detroit defense gets a stop on that drive now that it's 15 yards back? That interception was almost at midfield. So now it's almost at the opposing 35-yard line. So it's basically a new drive, a fresh start for the Commanders. Who knows if the refs call an unnecessary roughness? What if the Commanders punted and the Lions drove down the field and scored? They cut the lead, and it's obviously a much more competitive game. But there's a lot to be said about the Detroit Lions performance on Saturday night. That was wow. Okay, that's the number one team in the NFL. That's the number one offense. That is Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn at their best. Wow, that's Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Yeah, that's that guy.
That's your MVP. Ugh. That's your leader. That's the guy that's leading you into battle each and every week, Lions fans.
Failure. There it is. Failure. Again, how? It's honestly amazing to me that the Washington Commanders shocked the world and Jayden Daniels put on his Heisman cleats and popped off on Saturday. That's amazing to me.
What Jayden Daniels has been able to do these past 2 weeks for the Washington Commander franchise will never be seen again. As a rookie, this guy is coming in. He is playing like a 6-7 year seasoned veteran who has been through the ups and the downs of an NFL season and an NFL career. And he has been able to lead his Washington Commander team with a lot of young and inexperienced players to the NFC Championship game as a rookie. There cannot be enough said about what he has done as a rookie. And what a win for the Washington Commanders. We talked about this last Saturday about what is their secondary going to be like. Is their defense going to be able to slow down the Detroit Lions? And what I said was yes. I said I think that the Washington Commanders defense will be able to keep Jayden Daniels and this Washington Commander offense in the game and give them a chance. And you give Jayden Daniels an inch, and he took a mile, putting up 45 points in a monster NFC Divisional Round win over the Detroit Lions. There cannot be enough said about that young man and what he has been able to do as a rookie.
Yeah, we talked about how I said that secondary wasn't ready for guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. 4 turnovers on the secondary.
4 interceptions, 5 turnovers.
3 interceptions.
No. 4 interceptions. 3 from Goff, 1 from Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams had an
Yeah.
interception too, right?
And then there's another fumble recovery. That
So
is
five
5 turnovers.
turnovers. Wow.
We've seen it time and time again in this playoffs alone. You cannot turn the ball over 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and expect to win. We saw it in the first game of the wild card weekend with Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. We then saw it again on Sunday evening with Jordan Love and the Packers. We saw it just one game earlier, just a couple hours before, with CJ Stroud. They gave the ball to the Chiefs. I think. I might be
No,
wrong on that one. No, they
no,
did. They didn't.
I didn't turn the ball over.
I'm thinking of this game. But you give the ball to Jaden Daniels and you give the ball to that offense, which is explosive and which has been unstoppable over the past couple weeks. It's not going to work. It's not a recipe for success.
No, it's not. The Washington Commanders secondary, five turnovers, and not one of them. If you look on paper who they have, you have Marshawn Lattimore and a bunch of young guys. Marshawn Lattimore didn't do anything in that game. Spoiler alert, Marshawn Lattimore didn't do much. Those picks are 2 by Sandra Still, 1 by Quinyon Martin. I forget who the fourth one is, but then there's another fumble by another young guy. But like these young guys are coming together. This offense is rejuvenated from the 4-win team we saw last year. I would think their ownership is holding on tight to Cliff Kingsbury this offseason, making sure he doesn't get a head coaching job. Because I would pay that man head coaching money to be an offensive
can they give him a raise?
Once again, 1,000%. You have guys like not even Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown in the playoffs. Hello. The wide receiver 2 for the Washington Commanders, stepping up 98 plus in his last 2 games. Come on, he's the leading receiver now. Jaden Daniels looks great on the ground. He's great through the air. Jaden Daniels is clearly your offensive rookie of the year. No doubt about it. But I feel like if he keeps this up, he's playing at an MVP caliber level right now. And that's insane.
He is. He's playing at a Super Bowl caliber level. He's playing at an MVP level right now. He is amongst the best of the best. And what he's doing these past 2 weeks and what he's done all season for that matter. I mean, if he wasn't your offensive rookie of the year in the regular season, he has certainly come out and clinched this with the playoffs. But now let's shift to the complete opposite end, polar opposite situations that these two teams are in with the Lions. You lose both of your coordinators, Ben Johnson in division to the Chicago Bears and Aaron Glenn today to the New York Jets. Is their window crumbling? Is their time closing? Is Jared Goff going to be able to do it without a top-of-the-line offensive coordinator? Is Alex Anzalone and Aiden Hutchinson and all the other guys they have on defense, are they going to be able to do it without a leader, a former all-pro corner in Aaron Glenn? I have my doubts.
Oh, doubts. I have my doubts too. You know what? I'm going to say this, America. You're going to hear right now on January 22nd, 2025, when we get to the season in August, when you go watch this back, the Detroit Lions, yes, the Detroit Lions that won, 15 games? 15 games this year? Will miss the playoffs in 2025-26 season. I will guarantee you that.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I'm with you where they're not going to be as good. They're not going to I don't think they win 10 plus games. I think they go 8-9, 9-8 next year. They're a fringe team, inside looking out, outside looking in. One of those last teams in, one of the teams that are on the in the hunt graphic all the way. And I'll tell you this, I think the Bears have just as good a shot at them next year to make the playoffs. I still think there could be 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs next year. And it could be any combination of the 4 teams you make up, whether it's the Packers, Vikings, and Lions again, or the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions. Whatever it is, I think it could go either way. I think the Vikings are probably most likely to get in if they can keep Sam Darnold. and the Packers are probably second behind them, and then Bears and Lions are a toss-up.
If they can keep Sam Darnold at the Sam Darnold level he played this season, then yes.
At a system
Packers are a
quarterback
toss.
level.
I don't know what team we're gonna get. Are we gonna get the team that they barely snuck in both years? So I don't know what team we're gonna get with the Green Bay Packers. But I would not be surprised, Ben, if the Bears win the division.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
Yes,
Absolutely, it's
absolutely.
crazy. But you know what? Those Bears coaches, Caleb Williams had Matt Eberflus. Mitch Trubisky had Matt Nagy. Caleb Williams now has his best friend, Ben Johnson. I don't know what Ben Johnson's going to bring, but if he brings the fire that he has brought the last 3 years in Detroit, oh yeah, this team is competing for a division. They have the pieces. If they draft the right guys, you know what? Go after an O-line, increase your O-line, strengthen that O-line. Go after Trey Smith in free agency. Do that, and you have the pieces right now. The defense is fine. Honestly, you have a bunch of young guys and a couple veterans on there. Get more guys to the defense. I think you're in a great spot if you're the Chicago Bears right now. But as for the Lions, I will say this. Ben Johnson came at the end of the 2021 season. Aaron Glenn came in 2022. Their first year together, they won 9 games. The year after that, they win 12. The year after that, they win 15. Interesting, right? So now they're gone. The last time both of them were gone, they won 3 games. Wow.
They're not going to be as bad, though.
They're not going to be as bad. No way. But I'm telling you this, Jared Goff, as long as he's the Detroit Lions quarterback, you're not winning any Super Bowl. No way. Jared Goff.
I don't think that's the case. I think he can win a Super Bowl.
No. With the Lions?
Yeah, I think so.
Jared Goff is essentially right now, he is the equivalent to Dak Prescott in the playoffs right now. He can't do anything when the lights are bright. No way.
He beat the Rams last year, no?
He won a playoff game. Fine. He won 2 playoff games. But then he chokes it when it matters most. NFC Championship, choked it away. This season, the playoffs, this game against the Washington Commanders, forgetful, abysmal Jared Goff performance. Like, where was the Jared Goff that played all season? He was gone. That Jared Goff is thinking about next season with the new offensive coordinator. I don't even know how he's going to do with the new offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson, I don't even know what we're going to do. Is it going to be like Washington and Dan Quinn, where a bunch of Dallas defenders went away to Washington because of Dan Quinn? Or some Lions guys, some pivotal players going to go to Chicago to support Ben Johnson, or defenders, guys like Kirby Joseph, Aleem McNeil, are they going to go to the Jets? Try to get onto the Jets in the trade deadline, or try to demand release and go to the Jets in pursuit of Aaron Glenn. Like, a coach's dynamic with the player is sacred in the NFL. And that could honestly, if you start losing these guys because, your captains got head coaching jobs and walked away, this could be a problem. Even Dan Campbell knows it's a problem because he was the first one to say, we're in trouble without those two. And it's going to be really hard to replace guys like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn.
Let me pose you this. Maybe Jared Goff isn't the issue. Maybe Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn aren't the issue. Maybe Dan Campbell is the issue. Let me say this. Yeah, it's nice going for it on 4th down and running all these trick plays and doing this and that, all this silliness and buffoonery and shenanigans during the regular season, right? It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun watching the Lions this season. When it got to the playoffs, though, when it got to crunch time, it didn't work. And I think if the Lions were to get to the Super Bowl, and if they were to meet the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, which is what it's shaping up to have been, Steve Spagnuolo would have ran all over Dan Campbell's offense.
1,000%.
He would have taken complete advantage. Him and Andy Reid would have cooked up some amazing defensive concepts to stop those 4th down plays, to stop the trick plays. So maybe it's Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell's the one at the helm. Dan Campbell's the one that's calling for the offense to stay out on the field on 4th down. Ben Johnson's just saying the best play he thinks. He has no say in what they actually run. It's Dan Campbell's decision.
It's Dan Campbell's decision to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
Ben
That's what
Johnson
I'm saying.
has
No,
to
no, no.
pick a play.
Right. I'm
It
saying
is
it.
on
No,
his play calling. Dan Campbell does not say run X, Y, and
no,
Z.
no.
Ben Johnson
No,
comes
no.
up with the play.
I'm saying right. Ben Johnson does not get a say in whether the Lions stay on the field or the punting unit comes on. That's all Dan Campbell. Ben Johnson gets to say what play he wants to run for the situation that Dan Campbell has chosen.
Yeah, I don't really like the whole Lions go for it on fourth down because you pass the buck on to your coordinator and not all of a sudden it's their fault for calling a terrible play.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it's their fault. It's not your fault anymore. But I cannot see another coach in Detroit. Dan Campbell, honestly, without Dan Campbell, these guys would like hate each other. Dan Campbell is like the definition of like let's keep like the locker room environment up here. Like we're all on the same team. We all have to like each other kind of team. But like without Dan Campbell, if that was another coach, I look at it with Matt Patricia. Look at it with any of the other guys. It was a terrible locker room environment. Dan Campbell, like, despite how aggressive, let's say he is, but I don't think he's really the problem. I really honestly think that like collectively there's a lot of problems, and injuries is not an excuse anymore. You clearly adapted because you won 15 games, you made it to the divisional round and hosted. You were supposed to win this game by 10 or more points. Let's get that right. But like Dan Campbell crying in the press conference saying, I love this team, man. Like you love this team, but you guys choked again when it matters most. Like here we are again, and like everyone's supposed to feel bad, like, oh my God, this team is so nice, like lovable guys, and that may be true, but when it comes down to business, you can't execute.
You
And
haven't been able to get it done when it matters most.
no, at all. You like it's insane to me. Like, oh, we can get the number 1 seed. We can get that, no problem. We can get a top 2 seed in the conference, no problem. But look at last year. You had it and then you blew it completely. I don't know what happened in the second half against San Fran, but we could be talking about a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl. We could be talking about a Bills-Lions Super Bowl last year if Tyler Bass makes a kick. We could be talking. A lot of people had the Lions in the Super Bowl this year. Who knows? But I just don't see the Lions recovering for a little bit. Like, are they eventually going to recover? Sure. Are they going to find someone that are the same caliber of Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson right away? No way. No way. It is a learning year now. It's a learning year in Detroit, and that's sad. Luckily for whoever the defensive coordinator is, you're going to get all your pieces back, but it's a new coaching system, and it could, like, look at the difference. I'm going to use Dallas as an example. The difference between the Dan Quinn defense and the Mike Zimmer defense, like that, it sucked. And it was terrible. But who knows if we're going to get a repeat of that. I don't know. We'll see what the Lions ownership, they're great. They're a great ownership. They got a great organization at the helm. But it depends who they hire and how long it takes for the Lions, the current Lions roster and the future Lions rosters to get accustomed to that coaching style.
Yeah, there's gonna be some major realignments with the Lions, of course, with both coordinators on the way out and 2 brand new coordinators on the way in. It's never easy, and I think next year is gonna be sort of a learning year, sort of a learning experience where they're still gonna be competing and they're still gonna be winning football games, but it's not gonna be like this year. They're not gonna have another season as good as this one, and eventually they'll be fine. They'll never get back to this season with this unit, with this regime. And I'm not saying Dan Campbell has to go. I'm just saying this was probably their peak.
Yeah, it definitely was. And like, not even to mention, we didn't mention this earlier. They just lost their defensive line coach
Uh-huh.
coordinator too. He went to New England. So now you had one of the strongest defensive lines in the NFL. Now he's gone. So like, this Lions defense is in trouble. This Lions offense is in trouble next year. But I don't know. Playoff team, doubtful. If you get in, you get in. But if they get in, they're getting bounced out right away. 1,000%, they're getting bounced out right away. I don't care how much talent they have on the offensive side of the ball. Jared Goff can't execute when it matters most, and that's to be said. That was the case in LA with the Rams. He crumbled in the Super Bowl. He crumbled when it mattered most in the playoffs. He came to Detroit, and then, in the 2 playoff games that they've lost, a lot of it was on Jared Goff. So, I don't know where this Lions team goes, but I will say the trade for Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford is looking pretty one-sided now. Everyone was like, oh my God, both teams won that trade so well. But I don't know. Matthew Stafford right now, regardless of the fact that the Rams are out, Matthew Stafford can say he has a ring.
He's got one of these.
Exactly. Matthew Stafford has a ring to prove it, and he can lock in his first Hall of Fame ballot status. Jared Goff cannot say that.
No, he can't. But I mean, I think the Rams have won the trade. It's still up in the air to me, though, because the Lions, they got Jameson Williams, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown, they got all these guys. The list goes on and on. I'm not going to bore you listing them off yet again. So it's going to take more time until probably the end of these guys' career. Everybody retires until you could really fairly evaluate it. Well, let's get to the next matchup. Let's get to some of the Sunday games. The Los Angeles Rams, the aforementioned Rams, defeated by the Philadelphia Eagles 28-22 at the Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Huge game on the ground for the Eagles. Saquon, 2 home runs, an 80-yarder earlier in the game, and then a 70-yarder late. Jalen Hurts also had a big-time rushing touchdown in the first quarter. I don't know, man. It's tough as a Giant fan, and I know you as a Cowboy fan as well. An NFC East matchup between the Eagles and the Commanders. It sucks, but I'm hoping the Commanders win. I can't deal with Saquon going to a Super Bowl.
Exactly. I would feel the same way if I were you. I would not want to be a Giants fan right now. Wow. Imagine Saquon goes to the Super Bowl, wins it. That trophy is essentially a big middle finger to Mara and the organization. 1,000%.
John Mara is not going to sleep until both these teams are eliminated.
Exactly. John Mara is not sleeping until Jaden Daniels is on their team. Like I said, that's where we're at with the New York Giants. Listen to your son, Joe.
Jaden Daniels could be on their team right now, but Tommy DeVito wants to win a couple games, so that's
Tommy
not
DeVito
the case.
Wants to win, so Jaden Daniels is elsewhere. But as for the Rams, I mean, their luck ran out, unfortunately. They were a scrappy team, man. They were a great team. Matthew Stafford, honestly, I think Matthew Stafford's got a few more years in him for sure. If you ask me, the way his athleticism is and the way the stats, he keeps progressing, honestly. Like, he honestly looks better. Like, his seasons in the Rams are honestly better than some of the seasons he's had with Megatron in Detroit. But, Matthew Stafford has got a few more years left in him. The run game is pretty solid. The receiving game is pretty solid. This team is pretty solid. It's just the Eagles were the better team on Sunday. They didn't learn the guys didn't learn their lesson. I mean, a big loss with Braden Fisk. He had one of their only sacks on Jalen Hurts on Sunday. He was the big contributor against the Vikings. He had, I think, 4 on his own. But, he got hurt. The defense was a little shaky, and they didn't learn their lesson from a month and a half ago when Saquon ran all over them. Saquon ran all over them again. 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 27 additional yards through the air. Like, it's insane. Like, but I will say this. There is an issue with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's not just Jalen Hurts obviously coming off the concussion. That's clearly gone. But,
I think there's still a little part of it that's still there.
It is still there, but the run game is pretty solid. Jalen Hurts had that one run for like 60 yards, and it was pretty solid. Yeah. Like, the run game is unstoppable. The defense, the youngest defense, the best defense with Vic Fangio at the helm is pretty great. But here's the problem I want to say now: the passing game. Wow, Jalen Hurts 128 yards. I'm sorry, with the way the Commanders' defense just locked down to the Detroit offense, if you put up 128 yards against the Washington Commanders' offense, you're losing that game 1,000%. Because your leading receiver cannot be, number one, it cannot be a tight end. No disrespect to Dallas Goedert, but it could not be a tight end. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are quiet this postseason. Where were they? Like, these guys are on the bench. These guys, A.J. Brown he probably got through 5 more chapters of that book of his on the sideline. Like, it's insane. Like, these two they brought AJ Brown. They traded a first round pick for AJ Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith. They like with the high hopes that he has, and he's excelled, but they've been locked down in the playoffs. But like everyone seems to forget about that because they can't stop the Eagles' run game. But like if you get past that, the pass game is shaky, and I feel like with the way the Commanders are, get worried. I would be worried if I'm Philadelphia Eagle fans right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm worried too because I'm actually not worried at all. I'm actually very happy because I think there is a good chance that the Commanders win. Not going to get my pick right now, but this is going to be a tough pick for me to make. And for the Eagles, I mean, their offense has been quiet. And you know what? Jared Verse has another fan in me. Jared Verse, I love that man. I don't have the exact quote that he said, but it was something along the lines of when I see that green and white, I get hot. I get genuinely angry. I can get down with that, Jared Verse.
Yeah, he hates the
Great
people of
man. I
Philadelphia.
love that.
Love it. Yeah, we love
I'm
Jared
a, I'm a
Verse.
professional Philadelphia sports haters. I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah, professional hater.
I am
Philly
a
hater 101
professional hater of the
of
city
the
of Philadelphia
Philadelphia
sports
sports.
teams.
Yeah. Wow. But Jared Verse is a dog. Defensive rookie of the year, all yours. Like, but the defense of the Eagles, honestly, the Washington Commanders do have their work cut out for them. In all seriousness, this young defense is insane. With the way they've been playing, I honestly would be worried to play this team. Guys like Cooper DeJean, Jalen Carter, man. That offensive line for the Washington Commanders is going to have their hands full with Jalen Carter, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. Like, he's a dog. Jalen Carter's a dog. Cooper DeJean in the secondary. Cooper DeJean hasn't had a pick all year. He can lock you up, but he's not going to get a pick. Is this the time to get a pick? I don't know. But even veterans like Zach Vaughn, young guys like Reed Blankenship, this whole team comes together because Vic Fangio is 1,000% one of the best defensive coordinators. He's up there with Steve
Vic Fangio
Spagnuolo.
is one of those good defensive coordinators. And the thing is, he doesn't want to leave Philly. He wants to stay there. I think he grew up a Philly sports fan, and he's content with his role as D coordinator, and he doesn't want to leave.
No, he doesn't. And if I'm one of the players, I wouldn't want to see him go either. With the way he's coached, with the way they've done so well. But like it's the Eagles, man. They've been a run heavy team. Even with Jalen Hurts, they slowly became a run heavy team. They ran the ball a lot more. Now that Saquon's there, I mean, all bets are off. 1st and 10, 2nd and short, 3rd and 1. You know what you're doing. And you can't stop it, unfortunately. But who knows with where the Eagles go? It's definitely going to be a very competitive game on Sunday night.
Yeah, well, no, it's a Sunday afternoon game. Both games this championship weekend are going to be super competitive. And now let's get to the last game of the weekend. The game that was most hyped up, most anticipated, so much talk surrounding it. The Ravens and the Bills in Orchard Park. The Buffalo Bills come out on top, 27-25. Mark Andrews.
No!
Let's cut to the chase. Why wait? I mean, dropping a wide open pass on a 2-point conversion with a chance to send the game to overtime. Send your team to overtime with the right to play in the AFC Championship game on the line. That is ridiculous, man.
It's not even that, too. It's the fumble that he had, too. He's not even holding the ball right on a run.
It was all game with the Ravens. I mean, they had multiple fumbles. That one pass that Derrick Henry dropped in the first quarter keeps standing out to me because that's an easy 25, 30, maybe even 40-yard completion down the sideline if he makes that wide open catch and turns upfield and starts running like we all know he can. So many miscues. Multiple turnovers yet again. It doesn't work. We've seen it time and time again with these playoffs.
No, it doesn't
work. Turnovers do not work.
No. And like Mark Andrews, that ball, the fumble, the ball drop, it's right in your chest, man. You got to grab it. Man. You got to. Like, we're not football players ourselves on the show, but, you got to catch it. Like, that's the rule you're taught when you go play NFL football. If it's in your chest, you got to catch it. It's not like it was behind him. It's not like it was over him, like over the shoulder. It was in his chest. You got to catch it. But, like, did you see the Bills? Bills Mafia donated
Yeah, I saw that.
a load of money to his charity because Mark Andrews in the comment section on his Instagram was getting grilled. It was brutal. But, like, that shouldn't fly. But, you catch the ball and that wouldn't happen at that point. But I will say a big thing was Lamar Jackson needed to open up the pass game. He did. 254. That's pretty impressive for a guy like Lamar Jackson.
For Lamar Jackson, a pass like that is incredible.
Finally, there you go.
But for Josh Allen to run the way he did and continue to pass the same way he has all season, it neutralizes it. Because both of these guys expanded their games. Josh Allen has absolutely ramped up his rushing attack here as we get into the playoffs.
For sure.
And he's better at rushing than Lamar Jackson is at passing. Overall, like their base play in the regular season, Lamar's a rusher, Josh is a passer. We know that they're both incredibly talented at what they do. But in the playoffs, when they expand their games, Josh is a better rusher than Lamar is a better passer.
Yeah.
So therefore, Josh is the better quarterback.
But no, he's winning MVP. The committee loves a rusher. The committee loves a rusher. So we'll say
it still doesn't change your mind?
Well, this wouldn't change anybody's mind. This is a regular season award. Lamar Jackson.
I know. They look at they're watching these games. You know
they're watching these games, but that's not going to make a difference. But what I will say about the Bills, though, especially when you go, here we go again for the fourth time in a row. Not in a row, but for the fourth time. Here we go. This time we're going back to Arrowhead. For the third time, we're going back to Arrowhead. But here's the thing. Josh Allen really needs to let the receiving game and the pass game needs to step it up. They were better on the ground, and the Ravens kind of couldn't stop the run a little bit. But 127 through the air, this is not the same Josh Allen we're used to seeing. Josh Allen has a significantly more points through the air than on the ground. All Josh Allen's points, majority of it came through on the ground. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. All the touchdowns for the Buffalo Bills were rushing touchdowns. I honestly think with the Kansas City defense, honestly their run defense is a lot better than their pass defense. And guys like Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper was quiet. Crickets. They locked him up because he got 0 targets, 0 yards. This is their number one, essentially. He's got to show up. The pass game's got to show up. You need at least one 100-yard receiver to be Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry. You must have that. The Bills' defense needs to be dynamic, but they also need to know the rules when playing Patrick Mahomes.
Don't give him the ball with 13 seconds.
What?
Don't give him the ball with a minute and 13 seconds.
Or even 13 seconds. If you remember 3 years ago, you gave him 13 seconds and he made it work. But here's the thing, a big thing at practice this week is blah, blah, blah with the officials. Well, let me tell you something. Clete Blakeman's your official. Clete Blakeman's crews averaged 16 penalties a game this season. So this game is going to be a lot slower than most games that you will see with the Chiefs and the Bills. But you know what? Having said that, I would be extra careful. If you sack him, get off of him. If he's running to the sideline, you stop and put your hands up right there and do not lay an inch on him. Exactly.
Get on your knees like you're being detained.
Exactly. You do this. And I don't care if he gets the first down or not.
You do not breathe on that man. Let me make this clear to every Bills player, every Bills defender. You do not stand within 3 feet of him. You need to practice social distancing. You do not lay a fingernail on him. He is a prized possession. He is very fragile and delicate. You do not get close to him.
No,
you do not. You can't. You do not move a millisecond too early.
Exactly, because any little thing, even if your hair, like a lock of your hair moves, false start. A lock of your hair moves, encroachment, neutral zone infraction. It's insane what these refs can draw up with the simplest things. But, this is the thing with the Bills. You know, you gotta, you know what? Pretend Patrick Mahomes is like has like the most incurable virus in the world. Do not touch him. You can touch anybody else, not him, because they will not throw the flag. To if Xavier Worthy gets pushed, if Travis Kelce gets pushed, they're not going to throw the flag. If Mahomes gets pushed, there's your flag. If Mahomes
God
gets
forbid.
sacked,
They can't touch him. Oh
God
my
forbid
God.
you touch Patrick Mahomes. You're suspended and you're going to be tried in court and you're going to be arrested on the spot. Like, that's what's going to happen if you touch Patrick Mahomes. But guys like, you know, the secondary is stepped up. Guys like DeMar Hamlin, Rasul Douglas, these guys are stepping up. The Bills defense looks great. They stopped pretty much a run-heavy attack. Like, sure, Derrick Henry, they held Derrick Henry to under 100 yards. Under almost the first time they met week 4, he doubled Derrick Henry at almost 200 yards in that game. But you know, there's some things that need to be cleaned up. But you got to come away with the win. Like 4 times. This is the 4th time we're doing the Bills Chiefs rivalry. We're gonna run it back again, and I don't know what happens. You can easily beat them in the regular season. Why not do it again? You have to. You have to slay the beast.
You have to slay the dragon at some point. All right, one last thing I want to bring up before we end this episode. Who do you place the blame on for the Ravens for this loss? Is it Lamar Jackson, your quarterback? Is it Derrick Henry for dropping that pass early in the game, for not having his biggest game in the season? Or is it Mark Andrews for fumbling and dropping that 2-point conversion?
It's Mark Andrews, 1,000%. Like, anyone would debate me, it's Lamar Jackson. Well, I'll just say this. Lamar Jackson is the Tom Brady of Dak Prescott's. He's great, but he's on the wrong team. He's not on the team that will get you that far. Mark Andrews, that drop, who knows? The Ravens would have had a lot of momentum going into overtime. 1,000%. Because it is playoff overtime. So regardless if the Bills got the ball first, they drove down the field and scored, the Ravens would get the ball. The Ravens would have something to prove. Mark Andrews, that ball would have put you in the red zone. And even if it didn't work out, Justin Tucker would have made a kick. Justin Tucker went 2 for 2, 100%. He kicked at least a 47-yarder. You lost by 2 in this game. Who knows if the Bills screwed up on the last drive, you would have won 28-27. That's all I'm going to say. And you'd be facing Patrick Mahomes because the Ravens are realistically the only team that can honestly slay the dragon, in my opinion. If it came down to these two, I honestly would have taken the Ravens to do it. But, you know, the loss is on Mark Andrews. Like, one drop for Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson played his best game in a while, and Mark Andrews had a turnover, and you lost the game. So it's 100% on Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. The turnover was a bad start. But after that, I mean, dropping that 2-point conversion, it's just unacceptable. I mean, there's no other way around it. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed, please consider following, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing this with a friend. We really appreciate it. Make sure you stay tuned for our AFC and NFC Championship game predictions coming out on Saturday. But for now, I'm Ben Ballion, and that's Jayson Lee. And you listen to Chasing Victory with Ben Ballion and Jayson Lee.